In the first video, I discussed the California Civil PE application process as well as the CSP seismic exam. This video is just going to discuss the seismic design review books. From the home page in the books section, you'll see order now buttons for either the workbook, the book bundle, or the practice exams. The book bundle, of course, is the two books together, workbook and practice exams, and you would save $25 when you bundle them together. It's also important to note that the book bundle, the workbook, and the practice exams, neither of them are included with a purchase of the 2024 SDR on-demand webinars. Books purchases are all processed through PayPal, and the on-demand webinars are processed through Wix.com, so they're completely separate from each other. As noted in the first video, in the seismic principles exam, the references are shown here. The very first one being the 2022 California Building Code. And we also discussed that that is based on the 2021 International Building Code, or IBC. So in my opinion, I would use the IBC over the CBC if I was given a choice. It's cheaper and it's one volume versus two volumes. The other book that will be needed is the Minimum Design Loads for Buildings and Other Structures, ASCE 716, and that's pretty much all you need in terms of studying for this exam. The other items listed as references, in my opinion, there's enough information in the workbook itself that you do not need those documents, but you will need access to either the CBC or IBC and also ASCE 716. So in terms of the workbook, the latest printing is October 2024, the second printing. And what you'll see is there's 5 colored divider sections. The first one is for the lecture notes. That's what gives you the basis for the information that you're going to use in conjunction with the IBC or CBC and ASCE 716 to solve problems, whether it's the example problems or multiple choice problems or practice exams and so forth. So part 2 is the example problems. These are 23 significantly long problems with many multiple steps. That's unlike what you're going to see on the seismic exam, but it will give you an overall step-by-step process of how you might see on the exam 1 or 2 steps of a very long problem on there. So it gives you a better understanding of all the steps involved in certain types of problems. So for example, problem number 4, there's 5 actually A, B, C, D, and E steps there. And actually those aren't just steps, those are parts. There's multiple steps that might show up in just part A. So part A is determining the design spectral response acceleration parameters SDS and SD1, and you can see there's 4 steps involved in calculating those values. Then there's the part B, determine the seismic design category. In order to do that, you have to know S sub 1, S sub DS, and S sub D1 in addition to the risk category, and that would help you determine the seismic design category. Separate from that is the approximate fundamental period of the structure, and then knowing SDS, SD1, and the approximate fundamental period would allow you to determine the seismic response coefficient C sub S, the governing C sub S, and then ultimately the base shear, which is the C sub S times the effective seismic weight of the structure. So part 3 is the multiple choice problems. These are going to be more similar to what you're going to see on the seismic exam, but oftentimes these ones are easier than what you'll see on the seismic exam. But solving them will build up your experience in order to hopefully successfully pass the practice exams and then ultimately the seismic exam. So this one references here, I'm showing you page 3-8, and it's problem 3.1 through 3.6. So there's 7 pages that cover multiple choice problems for chapter 1 and chapter 2. Anytime you see a multiple choice number 3 point something, that's going to be applicable to chapter 3. Questions that start with 4 point, that'll be chapter 4, and so on. Part 4 is the multiple choice solutions. And I start off here with 3.1 and 3.2 to go along with the previous page. What you'll see there is I will reference the page number in the workbook where that answer may come from, and sometimes I'll also reference a page number in the 2021 International Building Code, or IBC. Sometimes I'll reference ASCE 716 and the sections and page numbers for that. So in this case, problem 3.2, the solution would be strictly from page 1-30 in the workbook. Part 5 is the appendices and index. Appendix A is definitions. Appendix B are notations. These are going to be symbols and notations that are used in equations that you're going to become familiar with. Appendix C are miscellaneous tables. Table C1 is some standard structural shapes, cross-section area calculations, moment of inertia calculations. Table C2 is the approximate fundamental period. This comes in handy so you don't have to calculate the approximate fundamental period. You can just use a table based on the height of the building and the type of structural system and quickly determine the period. Table C3 is the relative rigidity of cantilever shear walls. Table C4 is the relative rigidity of fixed shear walls or fixed piers. And then table C5 is various beam diagrams, a uniform load on a simply supported beam, point load at the center of a simply supported beam, midspan that is, and then there's a concentrated load not at the center, and then also a cantilever beam with a uniform load. And then lastly, the index. The SDR practice exams, that too is the latest edition, October 2024, second printing. There's 3 practice exams in the SDR practice exams book. They're all 55 multiple choice questions. You would want to allow yourself no more than 2.5 hours maximum to solve it, unless you're being provided special accommodations for the seismic exam, then of course use the time allotted there. I recommend that you do not write answers in the book. You want to use separate paper for that. Grade yourself using the solutions, and then add other practice exams for varied problem types and wording from other authors, either AEI or PPI or EET. So the first colored divider there, you'll see practice exam number 1 comes after that. First 2 pages are identical, but they're the answer sheet, so I'd recommend you either tear the page out or, better yet, make a copy of this page, and this is where you're going to write your answers. Then the next colored divider is going to be the solutions to practice exam number 1. So now you'll see the answer key. You've got not only question number, but the answer for that question, and then the content area associated with that question. And over here on the bottom right gives you how many questions were for content area Roman numeral 1, content area 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. In the appendix, I have the CSP exam test plan, which shows you the different content areas 1 through 7. This is a repeat of what's in the beginning of the SDR workbook as well. And then in addition to that, there's what I call a problem type index. It shows you all the questions that are associated with, say, content area 1, seismic data and seismic design criteria. All problems having to do with liquefaction, that's problem 1.9. That's exam number 1, problem 1.9. Practice Exam 3, 3.28, and so forth. So you see all these problems and problem numbers associated with those topics. And you can see also repeated for content area 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as well. Always want to go and check the books errata. That is from the drop down. If you put your cursor on books, you'll see a link to purchase the book bundle, the practice exams, or the workbook. You want to click on that last one for the books errata. That takes you to this page. When you scroll down a little bit further, you'll see, depending on the print version for your workbook and your practice exams, you want to view and print out the PDF associated with that. And that's it for this video. The next video is going to discuss the 2024 SDR on-demand webinars.